This is Matthew Cratter from Trader University, and today I want to answer the question, can the government block your Bitcoin wallet? In order to set this up, I want to review what we just talked about a couple days ago. I did a video about the Great Reset and your car, and I pointed out that there's a kill switch coming to all US-made cars and presumably EU cars as well by sometime in the mid-2020s. This is just one way of the government getting more control over our movement. I pointed out that you want to make sure that you have a car that cannot be remotely turned off by the government. You may like the government today, you may like the politicians who are running things, but it may turn out in a couple of years from now that you are an enemy of the state. And in this case, it'd be nice not to have the government turn off your car when you're in some remote location. Or also a company like Tesla could just turn off your car if the government told them to. So I said, make sure that you have a car that cannot be turned off remotely. And then I followed that up by saying, make sure that you also have money that cannot be remotely turned off by the government. Once we get CBDCs, once we get central bank digital currencies, it's going to be very easy for the government to turn off your money and control your spending and your earning at any point in time. And so I suggested that Bitcoin is the equivalent of having a car that cannot be turned off remotely. Bitcoin is money that's censorship resistant, it's permissionless. Unfortunately though, Bitcoin does not have these properties if you leave your Bitcoin on any exchange, any regulated exchange like Coinbase or Gemini or Kraken or Strike. You obviously don't want to leave your Bitcoin on an unregulated exchange either. And as we've said many times on this channel, not your keys, not your coins. You need to withdraw your Bitcoin from the exchange, hold it on a hardware wallet where you control your own private keys. Hardware wallets look like this. There's a Trezor, which is very good. Blockstream Jade is another good product. And then Cold Card is a more advanced product, but really, really good. Maybe not as good for complete beginners as well. So I will link to a video that teaches you how to buy Bitcoin and withdraw it from the exchange, buy it on Strike, withdraw it, and hold it on a hardware wallet like a Trezor. But that's not the purpose of this video. That was just setup and review. So when I suggested that Bitcoin would be the equivalent of having a car that cannot be turned off remotely by the government, I got a couple of questions. One from Mankind saying, asking, can anyone block my private wallet? And then a question from Stephen Giannakopoulos saying that the government can freeze wallet addresses. They can't steal your Bitcoin off of them, but they can make it so that your wallet address is flagged and no exchange or other medium can accept it. Now, this is a little bit misleading, so that's what I wanted to make the video about today. It's very clear, it's very important to notice that no government can stop Bitcoin peer-to-peer transactions. This is why we say Bitcoin is censorship resistant and permissionless. And I want to reiterate this. There's no way for the government to freeze a Bitcoin address or a wallet where you hold your own private keys. This is not possible. Your private keys are what give you the power to send your Bitcoin to any other Bitcoin address that you want. In other words, to send or to spend. However, if you leave your Bitcoin on Coinbase or Kraken or Binance or any of these exchanges, you're trusting that company to hold your private keys for you. And then if you want your Bitcoin, if you want to take possession of it and hold it on a hardware wallet or hold it in your own wallet where you hold your own private keys, you then need to ask Coinbase to send it to you, to send you your Bitcoin. Normally this won't be a problem unless the government tells them not to send your Bitcoin to you. And so paradoxically, this becomes a problem at that point in time when you need your Bitcoin the most. This is exactly what happened when the US government confiscated all of Americans' gold in 1933 and then put it into Fort Knox. The reason they were able to do this was because all of the gold was centrally held in banks and bank vaults. And something very similar is happening today. I believe Coinbase holds something like 2 or 3 million Bitcoin. So when you have these centralized honeypots of Bitcoin, it becomes very open to government seizure. So this is one reason for the safety and the health of the Bitcoin ecosystem. We all need to withdraw our Bitcoin from exchanges and hold them on our own private keys. But it also is important individually because when you most need it, just like in the early days of the Great Depression, when people needed their gold because the US was going to devalue the dollar, this was when the government confiscated their Bitcoin. So this is why you want to learn how to do this before the times get really rough. So this YouTube comment that they can't steal your Bitcoin off of a hardware wallet, but they can make it so your wallet address is flagged and no exchange or other medium can accept it. It's partially true. Yes, the US government can tell Coinbase to confiscate any Bitcoin that's being held there under a certain person's name. It can also tell them to confiscate any Bitcoin that is sent to Coinbase from certain sanctioned, quote unquote, sanctioned Bitcoin addresses. And this is what happened with the Canadian truckers, with the donations. There were certain Bitcoin addresses that were flagged by authorities, and all the exchanges in Canada and probably the US as well were told to keep that Bitcoin if someone sent Bitcoin from one of those flagged Bitcoin addresses. So the US government can tell centralized operators like Coinbase or centralized corporations to confiscate any Bitcoin that they get from quote unquote bad addresses. But the US government cannot stop you from sending your Bitcoin from perhaps your Bitcoin address has been flagged or sanctioned. They can't stop you from sending that Bitcoin to anyone, anywhere in the world. You just don't want to send it to someone who's in bed with the government like Coinbase, where you're basically giving up your private keys and you're giving up control of your Bitcoin. So, and this is important to notice, so even if your particular Bitcoin address has been sanctioned, you could still use that Bitcoin to pay a rancher, to pay a farmer, or to pay any other person for goods and services. And the government would be able to watch your Bitcoin move, but they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. You could also send some Bitcoin to an individual, maybe in real life, in exchange for some physical cash. So this would you'd have to make sure that you really trust this person, but you basically you'd arrive with your phone and you'd send them some Bitcoin, and then they would hand you some cash, which you could then spend anywhere in a very anonymous manner. As I said, if you are spending Bitcoin from a sanctioned or flagged address, the government can track the movement of Bitcoin from that Bitcoin address that's in trouble to that rancher or farmer's Bitcoin address. They can track it because the Bitcoin blockchain is transparent and open for anyone to view. But if that farmer or rancher or service provider has generated a fresh Bitcoin address, the government will have no idea which real-world person that fresh Bitcoin address is associated with. And so that person will then have privacy. That farmer or rancher would probably want to do a CoinJoin after they receive the Bitcoin from you as well, to further obfuscate the tracks of the Bitcoin. Again, we're not talking about breaking the law or doing something illegal here. We're talking about being able to spend your own money that you earned, that you bought, and be able to spend it on food for your family or shelter for your family, just because the government doesn't want you to spend it. Again, we're not talking about using Bitcoin for illegal purposes, for criminal purposes, for drug dealing or prostitution or anything like this. We're talking about using it in a very legal and moral way. So that's important to realize. You could also use it in an illegal and immoral way as well. It's a very neutral form of money. But it's important to realize that even if the government says that this particular Bitcoin address has these red flags associated with it, you will still be able to use that Bitcoin. This is a good point to mention that best privacy practices for Bitcoin. If you're receiving Bitcoin from someone, if you're that farmer or rancher, always generate a new Bitcoin address when you receive the Bitcoin. Do this also when you're receiving Bitcoin to your hardware wallet, when you're sending it to yourself. The good thing about hardware wallets like the Trezor or the Cold Card or the Blockstream Jade, they can generate an unlimited number of new Bitcoin addresses to receive funds, and they will still all be controlled by that wallet, by that 12 or 24 word recovery seed. So if Trezor goes out of business, you can take your 12-word backup, plug it into a new wallet, and your Bitcoin is good to go. Your Bitcoin's not actually stored on a hardware wallet. The hardware wallet just stores your private keys that allow you to move and send your Bitcoin. And so it's not true that a government, as the question was, it's not true that a government can block a wallet. What they can do is they can flag certain Bitcoin addresses that have been generated by the wallet. Now, a great wallet for this would be Blue Wallet. One nice thing about Blue Wallet is they also allow you to label addresses where you've received Bitcoin to remind you where the Bitcoin came from. So you can use Blue Wallet. You can use it on your iPhone. You can use it on Android. You can also use it on your desktop. And I'm going to show you right now what it looks like on a Mac desktop You just generate a new wallet here. You can go up here, generate a new wallet. You click on it. Then if you want to receive Bitcoin to this wallet, you would just click receive right here, and that would generate a fresh Bitcoin address. After you've received the Bitcoin to the wallet, you can then label that address, and so you keep track of it. And maybe you keep all the Bitcoin that you've received from a certain customer or a certain farmer or rancher. You'd keep that all labeled in the same way with the same label, so you can be sure that you know where it came from. So if it came from Coinbase, for example, and they know who you are, you wouldn't want to merge those UTXOs with Bitcoin you received from one of your customers, for example. So check out Blue Wallet. Moon Wallet's also good, MUUN. There are a bunch of good wallets out there that you can try out. How to give your Bitcoin a fresh start. This is the next stage. I talked a little bit about CoinJoining. The way you give your Bitcoin a fresh start and sever it from its past history on the blockchain is to run a few CoinJoins on your Bitcoin. So this would be best practices. If you're a farmer or rancher, for example, and you receive Bitcoin from a customer, you can run it through a CoinJoin to give it a fresh start. It looks a little bit like this. CoinJoins have equal outputs on this side. So a bunch of different participants put their Bitcoin in, and then the outputs are all equal. So in this case, they're all 0.05 Bitcoin. And what this means is the 1,496 possible combinations. And this really frustrates governments and chain surveillance firms that are trying to track your Bitcoin as it moves through across the blockchain. So with CoinJoin, you end up with these shiny, brand new UTXOs. UTXOs is just short for unspent transaction outputs, or little chunks of Bitcoin. Each UTXO is associated with a particular Bitcoin address that you control the private keys for, or more specifically, your wallet controls the private keys for. And the nice thing about doing a CoinJoin is you end up with these brand new UTXOs that don't have a deterministic history. As I said, this drives the government and chain surveillance firms that are watching the Bitcoin blockchain crazy. Unfortunately, this is not something that I can currently discuss on this platform for obvious reasons. If that changes, I will be posting some videos on this. But for now, if you want to learn more about CoinJoin and you want to increase the privacy of your Bitcoin, just do a Google search for CoinJoin, go down the rabbit hole. Or if you want a shortcut, you can also check out my paid course on Bitcoin, where I teach you not just how the Bitcoin blockchain works and a lot of sort of insider knowledge about it that will help you to become a better hodler and will dispel all the FUD involved with holding Bitcoin and help you weather all the volatility. But I also teach you how to buy Bitcoin anonymously. I have 4 lectures about how to buy Bitcoin using it in a non-KYC anonymous manner. And then I currently have 3 videos on CoinJoin, the pros and cons of CoinJoin, UTXOs, chain surveillance, and CoinJoin, and then how to CoinJoin your Bitcoin on a desktop computer. So you can either Google it and you can figure most of the stuff out online. But if you want a shortcut, if you want to see how I do it or how I would do it, I recommend checking out the paid course as well. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.